Thanks for being with us today. This is the presentation to show you what's new in the ObjectCopier version 2.0. The new things that we have here is, as you know, ObjectCopier works to replicate graphical objects from one chart to another. Any kind of graphical objects, trend lines, arrows, squares, anything. How have changed this version in this 2.0 version? For start, there is a new function that using by pressing in your keyboard Shift V, you can show or hide the buttons, and then you can also replicate the changes of the objects. You can copy all objects that are new created, and always start with the buttons always showing when the chart starts. Let's see what all these mean. For start, when you have the ObjectCopier installed in one of your charts, this will be your source charts, you can replicate in the graphical objects to other charts in your platform. Always that you have selected the destinations. To do this, you have to press the button Select the Destinations and give double click on the buttons that will appear in the new chart. For example, if I try to move this button right now, I cannot, but if I give it a double click, I can move it. So if you can move it, the chart is selected. So this is the easiest way to prove that you have selected the charts. Once you have selected your destinations, press the button to apply the destinations, and starting by now I can draw an object and will be replicated in the other charts because I have by default selected the new function to copy the new created objects. This is one first function very handy because you don't have to press the small R button. You can just replicate them by creating in the source chart. More if you have to create several lines that you want to replicate in the other charts, it's very handy. The other thing that you can do is apply the changes to the replicated objects. For example, if I have this property activated, if I select an object and move it, as you can see, it will move in the other charts. Well, in the last chart, it's not visible because it's beyond the price, but now appears as well. Whatever I do with this object will be replicated in the other charts. Even if I delete it with the Supreme button, it will disappear in the other charts. This function can be cancelled, obviously, in the input properties. If you change false to the copy all the new objects, you won't be creating the copy unless you press the small R button, or you can change false, change the objects. And remember, every time you change the properties of the indicator, you have to re-select the destinations charts. As I cancel it in the function to change or replicate the changes, it won't change in the other charts. As well, I can do it if I cancel the property to replicate the objects. For example, this object that I have created do not modify the others. If I cancel it in the properties and the new function to cancel the replicate the changes, I will set it replicate the changes is in false, as you can see, and copy all new objects. I will turn it to false as well. And now, as you can see, as well, if I make changes in the properties, I have to select the destination charts. And now, if I create a new object here, it doesn't appear in the other charts unless I press the small r that will appear when you touch a new object. The other function is to control the buttons. I understand that it's uncomfortable to have these buttons on your chart. So if you press Shift B, it will be disable or enable the buttons. You have to do it pretty quick. If you do it, you have to do it like this. Something really fast. You have to use your both hands. You can use or replicate objects with squares, for example. There have the square replicated. In the other chart, it doesn't look because it's a little beyond the scope of the chart, but you can replicate text, for example. I add the text in this chart and press the small r, and will appear in the other charts. And as well, the other functions work with any kind of objects. Almost any kind of object that you can do with MetaTrader, you can replicate it with ObjectCopier. The last function that we need to see in the new properties of this version 2.0, if you have activated the appear the buttons each time you start the chart, will show you the buttons if you change, for example, the time frame. If you enable it, when you change the time frame or restart the chart, it will remember that you will have it. So true means every time you start the chart, the buttons will appear. False will mean that if you hide the buttons, it will remember that you have the buttons remembered. So you can choose one mode or other. True, to have always the buttons. False, to remember your last choice. Remember to deactivate the buttons, and the simplest way is to press really fast the Shift B keys, and that's it.